Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Tech Tidbit. I am Brandon, and joining me today is my guest, Miss Bonnie Adams. How are you today?
Fabulous. How are you, Brandon?
Good.
I'm really excited to be here with you.
You too. So, my first question for you is, how do you believe education has changed due to the recent technological advances?
I think it's more that we're looking at technology as a new tool. I mean, we've always had technology tools going back to like the first pencils, chalkboards, overheads. It's that our tools have changed, and it helps us to visualize how our students are thinking now. It lets us give a voice to the students that maybe we didn't hear from in the back of the classroom in the past. And we've got so many more outlets to how our students can show their creativity and how they can show their projects to us. We can take them to places and do things and have simulations and so many more interesting ways of demonstrating their learning now. So it's not that the technology itself is the thing, it's the tool that helps us see what they're doing.
Yeah, I agree. And how do you believe that the learning styles have changed within the last decade due to these technological advances?
There have been some futurists who've done some really interesting studies, some people like Ian Jukes, who actually came to Newport News a long time back. And they've done some things like formative MRIs, where they study people's brainwaves as they're actually doing tasks. And kids who have grown up with technology actually use different parts of their brains when they learn things than, unfortunately, my generation. Even though I did grow up with technology, we use one part of our brain as we're learning and reading something than your generation, who've always had screens in front of them. So the human brain actually does evolve as we use technology. I have a 2-month-old godson. He loves looking at screens. He gets it. He reaches out to touch it and manipulate it. He's never learned that. He's born innate with that talent.
Wow. So how do you believe that the use of computers have changed the way that the elementary students learn?
Again, it's a tool thing. When I had an elementary school classroom, I had one computer in the room. And the majority of the way I managed my classroom was that I had folders and papers and books. The way the elementary school classroom is managed today, yes, we have folders and classrooms and books, but a lot of the management is done in Google Classroom. And we hand out the assignments in Google Classroom with Google Docs. And the students can turn the assignments in to the teacher that way. When the kids turned in a paper to me, it had to come physically to me. I had to physically grade it and hand it back to them. With Google Classroom, the teachers can grade the paper with the student simultaneously. As the student is writing, the teacher can see it in Google Classroom and go, oh wait, did you know you're misspelling this? Here's a correction that you might want to make on your grammar. Go check on this and see if you might want to use another word. And they see everybody's papers all at once. It's fabulous. It's a fabulous collaboration tool. So they're working together on the assignments instead of everybody's doing it. I've got to walk around, check on everybody. Now I've got a stack of papers this tall to go through. There goes my weekend. So we're all working on it at the same time.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's easier this way?
I think it's easier for everybody. I think that it becomes much more of a collaboration effort between the students and the teachers become a facilitator of the student learning. And the students can start to take ownership of their own learning. And I think that's always a powerful tool when students realize I'm in charge of my own learning, and that makes them a lifelong learner. And that's really our goal.
Yeah, it's really nice when you're able to involve education with everyday life.
Absolutely.
And so, are students now taught how to type and use a computer while in elementary school?
Yes and no. I mean, in elementary school, we have a certain part of the day in the morning, what's called morning experience. And there's lots of things that they can do. And one of the things that they can do is there are some typing programs that they can go on. Is it a requirement? No. In the kindergarten classrooms, we have actual computer keyboards that they can practice on. And we say, practice typing your name, practice typing your words. Do we teach them keyboarding like you would learn in high school in a computer class? Not really. We teach them kind of relative keyboarding. But we do want them to learn keyboarding in the context of what they're doing. So we don't want them hunting and pecking like this. We don't want them texting keyboarding.
Yeah.
But we want them to learn where the numbers and the letters are so that they start becoming a more fluent typer as they're working through the documents that they're doing.
And we will be right back, and stay tuned.
Ryan, are you doing your homework?
Yes.
Are you sure you're doing your homework? Yes.
Ryan, are you reading your book for school?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Ryan, you've got a test tomorrow. Are you in the bed?
Explore Virginia's natural heritage at the Virginia Living Museum, which is home to more than 250 species, such as fish, reptiles, birds, and even alligators. The Virginia Living Museum has a wide variety of fish and animals to see. They also have the Dinosaur Trail and the Children's Garden for kids, so come visit today. One of the largest municipal parks east of the Mississippi River, Newport News Park offers a wide variety of activities and experiences. These include archery, boating, disc golf, playgrounds scattered throughout, hiking on many historical trails through Civil and Revolutionary War sites, and a discovery center, which lets visitors explore Virginia and Newport News Park's magnificent nature and vast wildlife, ranging from plants to animals. For more information, contact Newport News Park at 13560 Jefferson Avenue or at 757-886-7912.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Tech Tidbit. And I'm still here today with Miss Bonnie Adams.
Hello.
And so my next question for you is, how do you believe that these technological advances will change the way that learning will evolve from middle school to high school?
I think that it gives our middle school and high school students a real chance to prepare themselves for the workforce. If you look at the workforce today, you're collaborating and cooperating with people all over the world. And you're competing for jobs all over the world. You have to be prepared for a digital workforce. If you're not ready to collaborate and cooperate, which is, our college career and citizenship ready skills, you're not prepared to go out and compete and go for the jobs that we want you to have. You've got to have STEM skills. You have to know science, technology, engineering, and math. And we really focus on those here in Newport News. We've got the BCI lab down on 31st Street, 32nd Street. I was just there last week. I know how to get there, can't necessarily give you the address. We really want our kids to know how to code. You don't have to be fluent at programming Java. You just have to understand that this is what controls the technology that you work with. That you don't necessarily want to be a hacker. Those are the guys who work in a basement. You want to be the guy who's a web developer and is making $200,000 a year. You want to know how to control the technology that's in front of you. You want to be a creator and not a consumer of technology, because technology is going to change the world around you. A long time ago, Bill Gates said, we don't get to choose how technology is going to change our lives. It's just going to. I remember when microwaves first came on the scene. I was cooking dinner for my family in high school every night. That was part of my chores. 2 hours to make dinner every day, part of my chores. Sorry, I'm a single woman now. Dinner takes 3.5 minutes at 80% power in my microwave. That's how much time I spend making dinner. It's a huge difference. Technology changes our lives, hopefully for the best, but we have to choose how much power we give the technology and how we use it, hopefully for good and not for evil.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And so what are your personal thoughts on how the next generation is being taught as opposed to previous generations?
I think there's a lot of good. I know that a lot of the ways that we're teaching are more difficult because in the generation that I was the tail end of, we were taught to memorize a lot of facts.
Yeah.
Columbus sailed in 1492. This place was done at this time. These are the list of presidents, or these are the list of countries. My thought is if you can look it up on Google, you shouldn't have to memorize it.
Yeah.
But if you can extrapolate meaning from something, the deeper levels of questionings, the kinds of things that they're asking on the SOL tests now, the deeper levels of understanding. And that's why the SOL tests are so flaming hard. That's the kind of thinking and creativity and the kinds of thinking and constructs that are going to get you places in the workforce. That's what makes education hard now. And yeah, it's different. And a lot of people don't understand why it's so different. Why can't they just go back to memorizing all the different presidents? Well, because they can look it up on Wikipedia or they can Google it. They've got to understand, why does this president relate to this one and how do their policies relate? Or why is this war related to this war? And how can we say that World War II started at the end of World War I? And why did those policies relate to this? It's a much deeper level of understanding.
That brings up a really good point. And so how do you believe classroom interactions have increased or decreased within the last 5 years?
I think if you just walked into a classroom and you saw all these kids sitting behind a bunch of computers, you might think, oh my gosh, these kids never interact with anybody. But if you were to actually go behind the scene and look at what was going on, you'd see that those kids behind the computers are collaborating with other kids on documents. It's not just everybody in their own little silo working on their single project. These 3 kids are collaborating on this project, and these kids are talking with their teacher on this project, and these kids might be talking with this person over here in another classroom, in another country, whatever, working on another project. So you've got much deeper levels of communications and cooperation and collaboration going on. It's not always obvious what's going on. Another thing that might happen, I know in my classroom, there were always those kids who didn't talk.
Yeah.
And the thing that you can get with technology is those kids who don't like to talk out sometimes don't mind texting in, and they suddenly have a voice and you can hear from them and everybody's voice is heard. And that's a very powerful tool.
So do you believe that with, as you mentioned before, how the students now are essentially trained mentally to be able to use these technologies, but do you feel as if there's anyone like in any of your classes who aren't?
I do think that there is definitely a digital underground. I think that there's a group of our students who sometimes come to us underserved, and that is foremost focus to make sure that everybody who comes to us leaves with the same level of skills. Because it is our job to make sure that when they leave us, they are college, career, and citizenship ready. And we need to make sure that when they leave, they are prepared to enter that workforce. Whether they came in here at the same level, they need to be leaving at the same level. So we need to make sure that we all come out being successful.
Yeah, it really is important to be able to put in the extra effort to be able to make sure that everyone comes out with the same opportunities.
Totally
and
agree.
advances.
Totally agree.
So what do you expect to change in public education within the next decade?
I have no idea. When I first started in this position in 2000, the big thing was just to get teachers to take their laptops out of their closets and to train the teachers in using the tools. We moved from that into integrating technology into the curriculum, and now we work with coaching the teachers in using the technology in the curriculum and in the lessons. We've moved so far. The technology learning centers that I work with now have robotics, have 3D printers, have coding, have iPads and Osmos, and there's things that I could not have even dreamt of when I started this job in 2000. 10 years from now, who knows? It's an exciting time to be alive. There's so many cool things on the horizon. What could happen? I can't wait to see.
Yeah, I really can't wait to see how everything has advanced and how society has really dealt with the change.
I agree.
And so is there any last questions or remarks that you'd like to share?
The one thing I would really like to see to change is to see social media really format against cyberbullying.
I agree, because that really is a big issue that's come up over the last couple of years, mainly due to all of the technological advances. And I'd really like to see like a real change in the way that we use social media for a more positive way.
I totally agree. Social media can be used for so much good, and we see it in so many places, in so many countries, The thing is, if you wouldn't say it to somebody's face, you don't need to be saying it on social media. If you're not brave enough to say it to somebody's face, keep your mouth closed on social media.
Yeah, and that brings me to one last question. So is there, in the elementary schools, is there any classes on like,
Digital citizenship?
yes,
We do have an emphasis on digital citizenship throughout the year through all grade levels here in Newport News schools.
that's great. Thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Tech Tidbit. I've been Brandon K. Hedgepeth, and thank you to Bonnie Adams for joining me, and have a great day.